let's look at it this way. Dusty can say what he wants, but Dusty could never remove himself from every single angle so that we could get some work done, and that's inherent in most bookers that are still wrestling. And Vince Russo's is a prime example of a guy who thought in his own mind only, I hope, that he was a draw. Give me a break. He should have been in the back room somewhere. I mean, those guys interrupt angles. They upset the flow of guys that have the material to be pushed to the top shelf, and for obvious ego reasons. Dusty. Dustin Rhodes, Dusty's son, is one of the great kids in the business and one of the nicest and fine performers you'll find. And he got in his way, too. He can say what he wants about the hierarchy never, ever interfered. He can say that I did, and, of course, I did interfere in trying to break the age-old I am the booker, and lots of guys had a lot of great ideas that never surfaced, never got through the booker's office, and I guess I had a larger booking committee than anybody at times because I was trying to let some of these great ideas move to the top. And it's one of the unwritten situations. The bookers take care of their friends and themselves, and brother, it is tough to break out of it unless you just fire bookers and start over, and then you get the same kind of thing, really.
What was your thought?
Pardon me.
In hindsight, what was your thoughts as far as Ole Anderson? I mean, you brought him in as booker. I mean, yeah. Ole. In fact, there's actually some questions here. We'll talk about that in just a second. But what were your thoughts overall on Ole?
Well, I thought Ole had some great ideas, and some of them came to the top when we substituted the ghost for Barry Windham and all. Great ideas, and they worked. And if you look back at our ratings collectively versus Vince's, and you remove the kids from 10 years old to 14 years old, we almost matched Vince in ratings if you pull out that demographic. But he had the kids, and that's one of the reasons that we never really equaled his ratings. Although our rating, as it related to the Turner networks, was one of the highest that they had, and when they looked at what it would cost them to replace the number of hours that we did, it was astronomical in other program material. But I liked Ole. There's a point where if you lose the nucleus of talented wrestlers that you have, if you lose their attention, which Ole did, then you have to make some kind of a change. And you either, try it with adding some more fresh people to the booking committee. And believe me, we had knockdown, drag-out arguments at booking committees. But the age-old phenomenon is that bookers normally, I think Johnny Ace right now may be a heck of a choice for Eric, because he's an open thinker. He listens to other guys, and he has no big axes to grind as it relates to his own push. And I think it's so important, and that's one of the reasons Vince succeeds so much. He's in total charge. He's really used Jim Ross, I think, to the best of Ross's ability. He gets it out, because Ross is a master at trying to at building people. He really is, on the air and off the air. And ideas.
It says, did you have an actual policy of using guaranteed contracts to develop new young talent, and why was Ole so opposed to guaranteed contracts, and what led him to being sacked in December of 1990?
As I remember it, David, it wasn't really over wrestling. It was over some other stuff, and I blew my cork and said, "That's all fine. I've had enough of it." and just made a change. And which is not the brightest thing to do either. I don't want to spend time here telling all your fans how dumb I am, because I'm not. It's hard to take it from the get-go with a broken Crockett empire and build what we built. We had some pretty good stuff. We had some great wrestlers, and we had some good shows, and it's not as easy as it may sound when you're getting a lot of flack from a lot of different areas too. I mean, even you holding up signs saying we've heard enough.
That wasn't me. That was John Hitchcock.
That was your friend.
I haven't talked to him in years. I knew him. That was pretty funny.
It was great. We shot it. Are you kidding?
I know. Brian, can you believe they shot that on the air?
Oh yeah.
We've heard enough.
And he goes, is it true that Dusty undermined you and that you told him he cost you your job, but he couldn't book his way out of a wet paper bag and that Dusty left the room white and speechless?
Yeah. Well, and
that's
then
true story?
Well, that's true story. And, well, on the other hand, I went to Petrick when it got to the point, and I told Petrick, I said, it's either me or Dusty, and he wouldn't fire, so I said, then it's me. I'm out. And that's when the other part happened. And he can't book. He cannot take himself out of the scenario long enough to book. I'm sorry. I mean, he's a legendary wrestler. I can remember pleading with Sam Muchnick to bring Dusty Rhodes into St. Louis years and years ago. And Sam wouldn't do it because he didn't like his shtick. Finally, he did, and Dusty sold out St. Louis for so many nights you wouldn't even believe it, because he was a great, great performer. And but hey, everything passes, and it's unfortunate, but I don't, and now I think he's trying to resurface again.
Oh yeah,
and that'll fall on deaf ears. Today's fans don't want to, he can get a pop in any arena. That goes back.
Yeah, he knows how to do it.
Huh?
He knows how to get a pop.
Why, yeah, but it's he may pop a bicep or something now if he's not careful.
Now, in 1989, you brought in Rick Steamboat, and him and Flair had probably the best matches maybe the company ever had, certainly in that period.
You're right.
In '89. And then you and Steamboat had a disagreement, basically a contract problem. What happened there, and do you regret it? Were you far apart on money? Was it just impossible to deal with them, or was it just one of those things where you just couldn't make the deal?
Well, it's another one of those little-known efforts. In fact, I flew over and set it in Ricky's home, as I did with Flair at times, and we talked contract, and we talked scenarios, and we had allowed if you look at it from back in New Orleans, Ricky Steamboat beat Flair with a single chicken wing hold, and which is a give up hold. And when we went back on to Nashville, I'm in a point where Luger is knocking on the door, needs his chance. Steamboat I wanted Flair to regain the championship with a double chicken wing, and Ricky wouldn't do it, which is an outlawed hold in wrestling, and that's the way it went. And so we parted company. And those things.
Let's go to Gank in Florida. Gank.
Yeah, what's up, Dave? I appreciate you giving me the China update today. Uh-huh. And I would just like to say one thing about the Adrian Street controversy. Les Thornton could outwork Adrian Street blindfolded. That's all I got to say about that. Adrian Street was not in Les Thornton's league. Adrian Street was not a world-class worker, and I just watched him on tape last week. I got a couple questions for you, Mr. Hurd.
Go ahead.
All right. It seems to me that, earlier in the show you were pimping Hogan and Savage as things that could have turned the company around if you'd been able to negotiate them. But all I hear from you is contract problem with Flair, contract problem with Steamboat, problems like negotiating finishes. That's what you were supposed to be doing. And you're talking about the ding-dongs here? The ding-dongs are not the issue. The issue is that you drove Steamboat away, you drove Flair away, and you basically killed the company. And, when you left, that company was in much worse shape. If they hadn't gotten Flair back, they would have went under.
when I left, they brought Bill
Kip Fry and then Bill Watts.
Then.
Yeah, Watts after
that
Fry.
That killed the company.
Well, Watts was just, 70s booking brought back.
And then when Eric Bischoff leapfrogged everybody, he brought in Hogan and the entire WWF super group.
Well, I'm aware of what Bischoff did. I'm aware of what Watts did. We're talking about what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And what you did was you created a company where the cupboard was bare. The cupboard was completely bare. And when WCW had somebody like Steve Austin in '94, they were so scared they weren't able to push it. They weren't able to push Steve Austin. So Austin goes to WWF, and you get Doug with the U.S. title.
There was whoa. Steve Austin's a totally different kettle of fish. Steve Austin was, Steve Austin wasn't pushed because the company, I couldn't give you a good reason other than the company was